Everybody, welcome back to another episode of FSi DFS Fantasy Baseball Picks. I'm your host, Mega31. Quick video today. The 4-game early slate's down to a 3-game slate because the Dodgers and Cleveland have to finish last night's game first. So DK took it off, and I don't think FanDuel even has it. So not really going to do too much with that game. If you're playing it, I think really the only viable pitchers that you really have, if you even dare to play cash on this small 3-game slate, would be France and Bello, and maybe even both. Everybody else, I don't even know if anybody can break 10 DK points, like seriously here. So I mean, King's reliever Corbin's horrible against the Yankees. Lambert and Armstrong, Lambert's really bad too. Armstrong doesn't go very deep, so I mean, I probably just skip this slate. But if you're playing, take those pitchers, even though they're against each other and against decent offenses. I think they have the highest floor on DK where you need two. Maybe you pick one and you pick a reliever, of the team that you have. So if you take like the Astros, like if you take France, take their like closer or something like that, and hope that they get in and get a save or something. I mean, it's more of a GPP slate. Yankees bats is definitely where I'm going to go. There's a little bit of rain there potentially. It's only 30%. They should be okay, but the wind's blowing in, so it kind of neutralizes hitting also. Tampa Bay is the other one. So Rays and Yankees bats, probably a pitcher from the Astro or Boston or both, and I probably wouldn't even play this. And I've actually started as we approach September playing lighter. I used to every single day play multiple lineups in like the $4 like 20 max, and now I think I'm down to like the $1 20 max. And then like, I still play cash, but I've been really watching it just because the variability of this sport this time of year with call-ups, with pitchers not going as deep because they're resting them for the playoffs, or they're too many miles on the arms already and they don't want to throw too many innings, and they don't want to, so they're like limiting them. And it's just been crazy and not as predictable as it was earlier in the season. So until we get to the postseason, I'm kind of backing off. So I'll give you that advice also. Consider if you continue to win, and keep on going. But if you start to see yourself not doing as well in MLB DFS, then just back off a little bit. NFL season's coming. It's still fun to play every single day, have some skin in the game, to watch the games at night. But if you're continuously losing this time of year, that's why it just becomes even more variable. So just make sure you're managing your bankroll wisely on that. So the night slate, we have 5 games. It might be 4 games because I really don't like the weather forecast for Toronto and Baltimore. It might start fine, but there's like a 60 to 70% chance of rain after that. So it might be the same thing as like last night with Cleveland and the Dodgers, where they play a couple innings and then it's suspended, and you only get what you get from the early part. And I don't think it's enough with decent pitchers out there. So I'm going to break down the slate as if everything's playing, but there's also some rain threat in Chicago and Pittsburgh, and Oakland and Chicago White Sox. There, the wind is blowing out significantly, at least 12 miles per hour. So that's definitely going to help hitting. In Pittsburgh and the Pittsburgh Park, it's blowing in at 8 miles per hour. Both Pittsburgh and the Cubs, I think, will be delayed potentially, but then it's like tapers off after that. It looks like it's going to be fine. And in Chicago, it's only about a 30% chance. So maybe some sprinkles and stuff. I don't think there'll be a delay. It should be fine. So looking at the games quickly here, Chicago at Pittsburgh, you have Steele and Andre Jackson. Steele, I think there's 3 pitchers on the slate that you can go with, and you'll just have to decide how you want to go with them and rank them. But he's against a great Pittsburgh offense. I know I've been saying that Pittsburgh is free swinging, and which leads to strikeouts, but it also leads to hits and stuff, and they can get to batters. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that. Andre Jackson, on their side, not a fan here, so he'll probably struggle, so I'm not gonna play him. So Chicago bats, they're very expensive, so they're my second favorite stack here, though, in a great position, even though it's a pitcher's park, and the wind's not going to help them at all. Pittsburgh on the other side is probably my least favorite stack of the day, but still in such a small slate, you got to keep them in mind, so they'll be a leverage stack. Toronto and Baltimore, like I said, it's going to be Barrios and Gibson. I think both are risky. They'd fall into the middle range, and I don't even think they'd be Probably in my top 6 or 7 pitchers I consider on the slate. So I'm probably going to cross this game off. If it does look like it's going to play, I play a Baltimore stack all the time. They just know how to hit. They got the Gossman last night. Barrios has struggled at times, especially on the road. And then Toronto also, it's a lot of righties against a righty that's decent against righties and with a decent bullpen. So I really don't see much upside there. They're just GPPs. I'd go full stack if you're playing them, but I wouldn't put too much money on them. Next, we have Texas and Minnesota. Winds blowing out here 10 miles per hour, 87 degrees, so hot and humid there. Great hitting condition, even though the ballpark isn't a great hitting park. That's going to help. Heaney and Lopez. Heaney has been really good recently. Well, he hasn't. He's actually had 2 bad outings, and but his pricing is good here. And before that, he was solid and getting some strikeouts. And Minnesota really strikes out. Yes, they do have some hitters, but they brought in some younger guys now. And I think I really like Heaney in the middle or as an SP2 option for you, or definitely as someone in a GPP. Lopez on the other side is probably going to be the chalk #1 pitcher on the slate here. Even Texas is a good offense, but he's been the most consistent pitcher, one of the most consistent pitchers in baseball recently. And I think he'll definitely do good. So if you want to pay up on both sides for him, then it's fine. There should be some floor there. But if you're not playing cash games, then he's probably the first one to fade to be contrarian because his ownership is probably going to be decent. Bat wise, I think Texas is the #1 leverage stack here against Lopez because of his ownership. And then Minnesota, definitely, if you're not playing Heaney, there are some right-handed bats that are really cheap that can make your lineups work pretty nice tonight. Oakland and White Sox, I think both pitchers are in play here, even though they've been bad. Both these offenses are going to be bad. I know the wind's blowing out here, but I like Waldichuk. If you look at his box scores, other than like one bad outing, he's been high teens for a pitcher that's 5'3" on this slate. I'll take my chances on him against Chicago, because once you get past the top of this lineup, you really don't have a ton of like power and I just, there's one really good value I see is Trace Thompson, who used to be on the Dodgers, who hits left-handed pitching really well, might be in the lineup. So there's somebody to look at there. But Schulten's on the other side, other than his last outing in Coors, he's been okay also. And I know the A's can put up runs at times. Ironically, they seem better at home, which is, not a hitter's park, but we'll just have to see. Like Butler's cheap, he should be leading off. Geloff has been hitting well. Noda's back in the lineup, also Seth Brown. So there's some options there. So I like both sides of it. I like it for cheap pitching. I like it for cheap hitting. Lots of things from this game. So you'll just have to decide how you deploy it. And I think you do the same thing. If you're using Waldichuk as your SP2, then put like Oakland as your cheap ones for like run support. It's just a correlation. If you use Schulten as your SP2, then if you're using a cheap stack, use the White Sox, because then if they do well, it's just all going to correlate and help your pitcher and hopefully get the win. Cincinnati and Arizona's last game on the slate here. Brandon Williamson and Kelly. Williamson is I think he's in play here also. Arizona has been not as good recently. They're starting to put it back together. They're back in the wild card mix after going on a slide there. And Williamson's okay. I think I prefer the other pitchers in the other game, but I can't rule him out in such a small slate and put him in the fade category. But we're talking probably more GPP than SP2 and cash. And cash, I try to get to Heaney, or I try to get the Waldichuk or Schultz, or pay up for 2 pitchers. And when we do breakdown, we'll look at that option. Arizona is my favorite stack on the slate here, actually, against him. And then Kelly on the other side, I think, is very solid also. Some sites have him as their favorite pitcher. So I think you can't go really long between like Lopez, Steele, and Kelly. You just have to watch the weather on Steele. But it might be a night just to pay up for both of those and get the floor and pitcher. And there's enough cheap bats around to be able to work with your stacks to make it a go of it. So Cincinnati is going to be a leverage stack against Kelly, because he should have some ownership also. And like I said, some touts out there have him as the top pitcher on the slate. And then, so if that is going to drive up ownership on them, then Cincinnati would definitely be a sneaky leverage stack. And then Arizona, like I said, top one. So let's look at the breakdowns, get you on your way for your day. So give me Lopez in the floor, but if you want to go Steele or Kelly, that's fine. SP2, if you want to go Steele or Kelly or Heaney, I think that's where I'd go in cash. If you have to drop down to Waldichuk or Schultz, I get it, but I'm going to go with Arizona over the Cubs in cash just because of the weather situation. and the Park situation. So give me the writer. So give me Walker. You're gonna have to decide on Marte, or Kennedy, and that's going to help with the SP2 catcher. I mean, you can go many different options here, but the Arizona catchers are usually in the low 2K range, so they could fit in your stack if you don't have 5 other guys there. Tim Anderson should be back there. Elrob or Jimenez, or both of them for the White Sox, is who I'm going to mix in here. Pham, if you need to drop down to Gurriel, if he's not in, that's fine too. And then third base, like Longoria should be back if you want to. Kennedy could go there also. They have Moreno in this catcher. I wouldn't play Armand in the stack at all just because he's more of a defensive player. And if you can get up to Carroll, then he'll have super low ownership lefty on lefty also if he's in the lineup, but they've been resting him a little bit against lefties. FanDuel, Lopez, Walker, Marte, Anderson, Pham, Elrob, Jimenez, Longoria, and Anderson are practically free on FanDuel. So you probably play one of those two in the third base. One's 2K and one's 2.1, and then just finish off the stack the way it works for you. GPP, give me Heaney, and then I'm probably going to play either Waldichuk or Schultens with them to get bats. I want to go with the White Sox, or not the White Sox, the Cubs, and I want to go with Texas here as a contrarian stack against Lopez. So give me the lefties in Texas, so Lowe and Seager, maybe Janikowski as a cheap outfielder there. And then it's really hard to get up to Bellinger on DK. He's so expensive, but if you can make it work, then awesome. Yeah, there's ways to do it, but I didn't like as much as this build here. So there's the core guys I'm looking at from Texas. And for the White Sox, sorry, the Cubs, too many Chicago teams. I know there's only 2. Next up, we have the FanDuel one. I'm taking Heaney as my SP1, and then I'm taking Texas and the Cubs here also. You're going to need a one-off, probably going to be in your utility, but if you want to put in one of the other positions, if there's a cheap guy that you like there and it makes it work, then that's fine. So that's what I got for you. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat below, or you hit me up at MyRower31 on Twitter. And if these videos help you, you've already helped by watching it, but if you want a little extra mile, give us a like, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, so you know when our videos are coming out, and share with your friends. So thanks for watching. Hope everybody has a great Thursday, and we'll see you next time.